Hello and welcome back to ManVFilm. Today we're going to be looking at the VSA releases, all 20 of them, and putting them in order of preference from my least favourite to my favourite VSA so far. I've got all 20 of them here, organised in an order. Let's just dive into my least favourite VSA so far, and that is this one. Dr. Jekyll's Dungeon of Death. Now this is a kind of low budget retelling of Dr. Jekyll, but it's based within the one house. The story isn't that interesting. The fight sequences are just dull and repetitive, and they're just there to kind of boost the run time and to add something into the story. Dr. Jekyll's Dungeon of Death was a slog to watch, one that was really tough. One that was also tough, but you know what, mildly enjoyed at times, was James Bryan's Hellriders. Basically, bikers roll into town and cause chaos, fighting, raping, murdering, doing all kinds of stuff. It stars Adam West as a doctor in the town. It should be pretty fun, but again, it's just kind of dull. And pretty uninteresting, and kind of one of those ones that you don't have any fun with, so it's hard to go back and revisit it. Next up, we've got the Mitchum and Stallone starring Savage Harbour, otherwise known as Death Feud. I kind of like this one. I'd say from here on in, I pretty much enjoy most of these to various levels. I like this one. I think the acting is atrocious, but that kind of adds to it. The fact that he's going to go and start an avocado farm, our main character, is just hilarious. The whirlwind romance is fun. The action's pretty interesting, and again, it's entertaining. So what more could you want? Kind of oddball, I'd say. The standout movie from the VSA so far, one that doesn't really fit in with the rest of them, is the Vice Academy 1-3 set. Low budget kind of TNA movies along the lines of Police Academy, but with a more kind of, I don't know, sexual spin to it. Three very different movies. I really like part one. I'm not as fond of part two, and part three is fine. Interesting films. I have gone back to them a couple of times. They're just fun background kind of movies, the ones you can kind of throw on and just enjoy if you want to. Next up, we have got Evil Town. Which, if you've seen Evils of the Night, is very similar, although I think Evil Town is the better of the two movies. Basically, a small town where a hospital is doing something nefarious to people for a purpose that I don't want to get into too much. There's some rapey mechanics in this one, attacking people. There's people in the town just getting caught up in everything that's going on, and that sense of kind of weirdness about the town, of what exactly is happening there. I kind of like Evil Town for its campiness, its attempts at horror, but it sometimes lands, and some truly abhorrent people in this one that deserve their comeuppance. Next up is Edgar Allan Poe's House of Usher. This one starring Donald Pleasence and Oliver Reed. Again, I had a great time with this one. I think when you've got those two actors in the movie doing what they do best, it can be incredibly fun. And they add a lot to this. Donald Pleasence is the brother that's kind of hiding out in the attic. Oliver Reed being all kind of just maniacal throughout this one. There's a sense of playfulness in the storyline, although the ending is really atrocious. The last few minutes, just not for me. Next up, we've got a movie that I really enjoy, which is thoroughly terrible, and now I'm starting to wonder whether I should have had this higher or not. You know, just don't know. Champagne and Bullets, a truly terrible movie that is thoroughly entertaining. You've got a coked out Wings Hauser who's just stealing every scene. We've got our John DeHart main character, who's writer, director, producer, main cook, janitor, everything on the movie, giving what can only be described as a unique performance. It's so much fun, but my goodness, it is awful. Next up is a kind of forgotten one, the VSAs, one that not a lot of people talk about, and that is Grave Secrets, which I really like a lot. It takes a little while to get started, to get into the meat of the story, but I think it's got a nice twist, a nice mystery at the heart of it. It's got some hilarious poltergeist sequences, particularly one with eggs, which I just thought was, wow, okay, I like it. It's a kind of weird thriller, supernatural hybrid, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one as well. Next up, we've got an earlier one. We have Lance Henriksen as our hero in Savage Dawn, as a kind of man with no name almost, although I'm sure he does have a name, who is set upon by these bikers who roll into town and decide that they just want to cause utter carnage. You've got William Forsythe as the leader of the bikers. You've got Karen Black in this one giving a wonderful performance and a terrific couple of lines that stick with you and stand out. It's got a giant tank in the finale as well. It's bonkers, it's great action, and Lance Henriksen is just great as that kind of anti-hero lead. Next up, we have got Whatever It Takes, which stars Don the Dragon Wilson, Andrew Dice Clay and Fred Williamson. It's a typical 90s action movie, but it gets by because it's got a great bad guy in Williamson. It's got great partnership between Clay and Wilson, who are pretty good together. It's got some ridiculously fun and entertaining sequences, like when the dragon's trying to act at one point. It's showing that he's really cut up about the death of someone. It's over the top, it's acting for acting's sake, and it's just silly, but it's fun. Great fight sequences, great action, and quick and punchy. Next up, we've got a recent release, which is TC 2000, which I liked a lot. Billy Blanks, the forgotten man of action cinema that I just completely lost out my memory for some reason. He is a kind of futuristic soldier who turns against his own side and realises that they're actually the bad guys and has to fight back. But it's got Bolo Young as a kind of Zen warrior who is terrific. It's got some fun action set pieces, some great lines, and it's just a fun throwaway action movie. Really kind of surprised me how much I enjoyed this one, which is kind of crazy because Fortress of America initially looked like something that could be a turkey for me, but it's again very playful. It has some great practical action set pieces. It's got some ridiculously why is that even included moments, but that's a trauma movie, so you kind of expect those. I think there's some great character turns in this one, plenty of action, and the bad guys are really worth rooting against, which, you know, makes a big difference in these kind of movies. Okay, I think we're up to down to the 8th title, which is Necromancer, which is a kind of rape revenge movie, because our lead character is attacked at the start. She's then possessed by a demon, which gives her the ability to viciously get her revenge against the men that attacked her. The special effects aren't that special, but they're kind of fun. The main performance is really great, and when it just sticks with you. I think a lot of the things about this movie were just fun, like the whole wizard trying to fix things, the witch that caused the kind of possession, the kind of transformation sequences as she seduces and then murders the attackers are, again, it's just entertaining stuff. It's one of those ones that I'd never heard of, but I really enjoyed sitting down and watching. Number 7 on my list, and this is a weird one because there's a couple of, well, get to it, I suppose. It's Tiger Claws 1 to 3. Now, I do love the Cynthia Rothrock movies. I love the fact that she is in these movies to various degrees. What I don't like is the fact that they sideline what is the most charismatic and, in my opinion, better martial artist, in the fact that they kind of push her aside and bring Jill Allen as the main character. 3 movies. The first one, wonderful. You've got Bolo Young as the bad guy. You've got some great action set pieces. There's a kind of mystery at the heart of it, and you get to see Cynthia Rothrock kicking a good bit of ass in this one. The second one takes it into a more campy playground, where it becomes an almost haunted house movie near the end of it. And to be honest, that seems to be the deciding fact whether people love it or hate it. Personally, I love that kind of kookiness that comes into it. It's very playful and incredibly atmospheric and just silly, but I like that. Part 3 is complete shit. It just is. It just wasn't for me at all. Didn't like it, and would happily excise that. If it was just a Tiger Claws 1 and 2 set, I'd be much better. Next up, we've got another great movie, Alley Cat. I think this is number 6, which is, again, it's another Death Wish kind of rip-off, where you've got a young woman who can handle herself. She is a great lead performance here. Stunned to see that the actress didn't really carry on and do much more roles after this, but she looks great. She has some good fighting skills in this kind of low-budget Death Wish rip-off, where she's pushed too far by the criminal element in her neighbourhood, and she's not going to take it anymore, and fights back in wonderful style. On to my top 5 favourite VSAs, and these are exceptional movies. First up, number 5, we have LA Wars, which is a terrific action film, one that I had never heard of. Even looking at the trailer, I was worried about. It turns up and it's a kind of gangster movie with a twist, and that twist isn't really, exciting or thrilling. It's a movie that follows a lot of tropes. It's stuff that we've seen before, typically in all these kind of 90s action movies, but it's charismatic. It's got some wonderful characters. It's got some terrific action, and these guys are kind of doing a lot of this stuff, the explosions, the fighting, and it looks and feels very tactile, and it's just so much fun. Best thing I can say about LA Wars. Now, another action movie that just beats it to the punch is Action U.S.A. Now, this movie is as good as LA Wars, but I think really just steals ahead of it into 4th place because it's the partnership. It feels very much like an almost lethal weapon. These two agents have to transport a witness across country while people are trying to kill them. It's as simple as that, but some of the car stunts, some of the hand-to-hand combat, the shootouts are just wonderfully effective, really kinetically shot, really interesting to look at, and the partnership between the 2 main characters is just wonderful and really just tees off this perfect action movie. Probably surprising a lot of people and even myself, but my penchant for horror. Number 3, Spellcaster, which I really enjoyed, and the setup is as silly as you would hope for. There is a competition being held. The 6 winners get to go to this Italian castle where they get to play a game of scavenger hunt, where if they find a cheque for $1 million, they get to keep it, and that's their money. So it's a great story of getting people there, but there's so much to go in as well. It's a music channel competition, so there's a music star there, the producer, cameras to capture all this, and we get into this gothic castle where we start to get some pretty fantastic special effects. The ones that kind of jump in my head straight away are the pig sequence or the chair sequence, which is just fantastic, and the characters are all fun. It's wonderfully shot, it's very colourful as well, and has some really terrific horror sequences in this one. I like Spellcaster a lot. Number 2 in my VSA ranking list is Martial Law and Martial Law 2. I absolutely adore these movies, particularly the first one. I think it's the better of the 2. I think you've got a wonderful lead performance, and you've got Cynthia Rothrock again playing second fiddle a little bit, but she's more in this movie, she's got more to do. And although the story is kind of typical of things we've seen before, it's done with enough freshness about it, the way it's shot and the power of the bad guys, that it becomes really fun. Just the fact that they've got David Carradine as the bad guy just elevates the movie because it gives it a certain quality to it. and when you've got Chad McQueen as a kind of lead guy, he does well enough. I like his relationship with Cynthia Rothrock. It kind of feels genuine enough, and you get a kind of like side story of family drama as well, which is a little shoehorned in there, but you know, I don't mind it. It's not grating or that. But yeah, Martial Law and Martial Law 2 are fantastic releases from VSA. Now on to my number one, which if you've been keeping track, you probably know already, and that is The Grave, a movie that's so good that it doesn't even belong in the VSA range. It is a kind of Tales from the Crypt type of story. It's a wonderful southern noir with so many familiar faces. It's just unbelievable. They just turn up for a scene and then disappear, of people on a treasure hunt trying to track down a boatload of gold that they can retire on. You've got criminals escaping from prison, hunting for this treasure, and other things that happen. But man, the performances, the interaction, the story itself is very pulpy and quirky. It really does feel like a feature-length Tales from the Crypt, and I think it lives up to that kind of idea as well. The Grave for me is head and shoulders above all the other VSAs, and one that I just utterly adore. If you've been sleeping on it or you haven't thought about picking it up, I utterly urge you to get it. I would love to know what your favourite VSA and your least favourite are, or if you want to rank some, or just tell me ones that you like and ones that you hate. I'd love to know. Let me know in the comment box below. As always, there's more content up here. You can see more of my stuff if you so wish, and if you click that like button, well, I know you like this video and I can do more things like this. And if you want to support me that extra little bit, for as little as 99p a month, you can support me on Patreon or the membership program, which would be utterly amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.